Hello everyone and welcome back to my F122 My Team Career Mode for the start of Season 2. We'll kick this one off with our little end of season screen here. We'll get a bunch of acclaim for our achievements in Season 1 as well as all the prize money, of course. Technically we should have been 6th in the constructor standings, but thanks to the game crashing in the Mexico round that became a whole thing. Anyway, we've got Fernando Alonso alongside us for Season 2, so this should be good. He was probably best of the rest outside of the top 4 teams. And I say top 4 because I'm including McLaren in that lot. So, yeah, no one was really touching the top 4 teams because they took out the top 8 positions in the drivers' chance standings in order. But anyway, here is the season we have scheduled. We'll kick things off in Bahrain. Saudi Arabia is off the calendar, and then we head to Melbourne. Shanghai is a new addition before we then head over to Miami once again, and we'll go to Spain, Azerbaijan, the UK, and then across to Austria, France, to Belgium, to Italy. Singapore is off, then we'll head to Japan, and then we'll finish off the season in Mexico. Portimao returns to the calendar. We'll head to Brazil and then finish the season off in Abu Dhabi. So it's another 16 race season. Basically we've taken off Jeddah and Singapore and replaced them with China and Portugal. So yeah, we now create our helmet and suit for the season. We're going with a red, black and white. And I think I'm going to stick with the same look for the entire season this time, because truth be told I have thoroughly run out of ideas for new liveries each round. So yeah, we're going to just create one livery and stick with it throughout the season. As for our new sponsor then, after looking through the options, I think the one I want to go with is Compass, or Compass. The spelling with the K is kind of putting me off and makes me want to say compass for some reason. I don't know why. That's a very weird thing. But anyway, yeah, that is I think the most reasonable option for us. The payout and weekly income we'll get is pretty good, and the goal is quite reasonable. 5 podiums. I think we should have a much improved car for this season. I should certainly hope so. If we don't get 5 podiums in this season, I would be quite disappointed. So yeah, I think the car will be pretty good this year. I have high hopes that considering we did manage to save all of our upgrades from the previous season, I don't think every team will be able to do that. As for power unit supplier, Renault are now the absolute worst, so we're not going to stick with them. We're going to switch to Mercedes and go for the best of the best. The durability is max 100, so hopefully we don't have any reliability concerns, and the performance is also better than anyone else's. So yeah, there is no real downside to signing Mercedes as our power unit supplier, and yeah, they'll be hopefully powering us to a world championship this season. I don't know if the car will be quite that good, but we'll give it a go. Creating the car livery now, and well, here it is. And yeah, that is the team set up. So without further ado, let's head back to HQ and get ready for the first race. Well, first things first, as always, we will first go to the activity timeline and see what we can do. Given that Fernando Alonso's focus is so low, we're going to need to do everything we can to improve that as much as possible. We'll do the driver training camp then to increase all of his stats for the start of the season. I also want to bring in a few more resource points, of course, so we're going to do the aero and chassis focus to boost their morale and bring in 1,000 resource points. We then look to our facilities and we are going to upgrade a lot of things here. We're going to do durability, fabrication, we're going to do durability build time, we're going to do durability resource point generation, we're going to do power unit resource point generation, we're going to do aero resource point generation, we're going to somehow manage to miss doing aero fabrication. That's still at spec 0, but we're going to do aero build time, and finally chassis build time. As for R&D, we'll purchase a tyre blankets upgrade for better tyre wear. And we now get our first glimpse at what the R&D chart looks like heading into this season. Starting at the top, Red Bull have re-overtaken Ferrari, but though they've both gone downhill since the previous season. Third fastest is Mercedes. They've had a massive drop though, and now they're only just barely ahead of McLaren, who are in turn, after a drop, just barely ahead of Alpine, who stayed relatively level. Behind them, Haas had a huge drop, only slightly ahead of Alfa Romeo, and then we've had by far the biggest upturn in performance between seasons. That is a steep increase on that line, and one of, if not the only team to increase performance season on season. Behind us, we have AlphaTauri, Williams, and Aston Martin, now the worst team. So it's going to be an interesting season. We'll see how it goes, and we'll also check out where all the drivers have gone shortly as well. But anyway, we roll on through the timeline and get a bunch of those facility upgrades, as well as our next batch of resource points, and we will purchase a DRS upgrade with those. We continue to go through the timeline then towards the first round. We get a few more facility upgrades as well as our next lot of resources, and we continue going through, and we finish that activity that gives us 1,000 resource points, which now means we can afford another upgrade. And given that was an aero and chassis focus activity, it only makes sense we focus on either the aero or the chassis. So we're going to do this plank upgrade here, and that will be on the car in time for the next round in Melbourne. So that will be good to get that on the car. We will also purchase an upgrade to the control electronics, improve materials there, so hopefully we won't have any power unit failures this season.
Ready for the next race weekend.
Yeah, we get that tyre wear upgrade on the car for this round, which is great. And yeah, we have more, of course, coming to the car very soon. So yeah, without further ado, I think it is time we get into the first round of the championship. Oh, actually, we might here purchase that fabrication upgrade that I missed earlier on. There we go. I finally realized. So there we have it. But anyway, nothing more we can do in terms of R&D. So let's do it. Let's get to the track for round 1 of the championship.
Alright, welcome to the new season. I think we've done a pretty good job protecting our development gains through the regs change, so the car should be pretty decent. But get out there and let us know how it feels.
Alrighty then. Without further ado, let's just get into practice, and we can finally take a look at who has switched teams over the off-season. So that'll be always exciting to find out. It's one of my favourite parts about starting a new season, is finding out where all the other drivers have moved. We know there will be a few changes. Obviously, first and foremost, we already know Fernando Alonso has made the switch to our team, so the number 14 will now be on our black and red car. Aside from Alonso, of course, Alpine were in need of a new driver, and they signed Lance Stroll in one of the more unexpected moves of the silly season. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes there. Jehan DARUVALA replaced Lance Stroll at Aston Martin, and with Sebastian Vettel retiring, they were in need of 2 new drivers. So replacing Sebastian Vettel was Alexander Albon, the number 23 driver, joining Aston Martin. A very young driver lineup at Aston Martin, and they sit bottom of the R&D chart, so it could be a tough season for them. Meanwhile, over at Williams, Kevin Magnussen replaced Alex Albon there. So it's kind of weird seeing the number 20 on the Williams car, I have to say. But there you go, Kevin Magnussen has made the switch to Williams. A bit of experience may help them out. Oscar Piastri found a new home at Haas, replacing Kevin Magnussen. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes there. And then finally, the replacement for Valtteri Bottas, Dan Ticktum, made the move up to Formula 1, and he joins ZHOU Guanyu at Alfa Romeo. So that is the silly season covered. And yeah, no switches among the big teams, but here is how practice number 2 ended, and we're not looking too bad, to be honest. We didn't really set a representative time. We only used the medium tyres, but Fernando Alonso had a very, very good session. He finished up in the top 10, so yeah, we're looking pretty good. There's a few outliers. For example, Lewis Hamilton only used the hard compound tyres, so it's not a full picture of where everyone is, but we have a decent pace heading into this season, and we'll be in amongst the fight for the for the midfield, I would say. So yeah, without further ado, I think we should just get into qualifying. After one more bit of R&D, the cable assembly weight reduction upgrade. Alrighty then, we finally get into qualifying. It's always a long intro for these first episodes of a season, but regardless, we begin our first flyer in Q1, and we'll see how qualifying unfolds for us. I'm fairly optimistic heading into this session. I think we can definitely get out of Q1, hopefully get into Q3. I suspect we may be able to do that if we get a good lap in Q2. I have high hopes. So yeah, let's see how this goes. We complete multiple laps in Q1 just to make sure we can get the most out of the car, and we do so, and we put ourselves in a fairly safe position, I think. Unfortunately for our teammate, things do not go so well. He's currently sitting down in a P20, and with not much time left in the session, I don't know if he's going to have the chance to improve all that much, and unfortunately that is true, and he does not make it into Q2, unfortunately, for Fernando Alonso, but we do, and in fact we're in the top 10 in Q1, so potentially we could make it into Q3 if we're lucky. But looking at who else is knocked out, the Aston Martin of Alex Albon knocked out, along with the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly, Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo, of course Fernando Alonso, and then Jehan DARUVALA and Nicholas Latifi also knocked out. So in terms of the new teammates, Albon beats DARUVALA, and MAGNUSSEN beats Latifi. Ticktum beats ZHOU as well. So a few unexpected outcomes from Q1, and overall I'm actually quite surprised Alonso was knocked out, but potentially that low focus stat, as I said, was the cause there. So anyway, we'll head into Q2 then, and we'll see how our car fares. I think if we get a really good lap together, we could just about scrape into Q3, but it's going to be borderline. But we'll give it our best shot as we come around the final couple of corners and on to the main straight. We'll see if this first flying lap is good enough, and we put ourselves well, second fastest for the moment, but as we continue on, of course, we drop down and eventually down into P6. We come around to complete our second lap, which is an improvement. We're up into 4th position, so looking pretty strong, and by the end of the session we drop down, but still in the top 10. We finished the session in 8th position, so not looking too bad at all. It's actually ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes, so very interesting. Lance Stroll, his new team in Alpine, gets through into Q3, so that is a huge step up from where he was getting knocked out in Q1 constantly for Aston Martin. That car just was not capable of getting it up the field, so he'll be very glad he switched teams. And one of the best driver moves, I think, of the silly season, and he's actually knocked out his new teammate Esteban Ocon, who qualifies in 11th position. Mick Schumacher qualifies in P12, out-qualifies his new teammate Oscar Piastri, and Haas and then Yuki Tsunoda P13, Kevin Magnussen P14, Dan Tickton 15th, and Oscar Piastri down in P16 for his first race with the Haas team. So we move on to Q3 then, and this of course is the most important session. I don't think we've probably even made it into a Q3 session before, I'm actually not sure, but whatever the case is, this is a breakthrough weekend for us, and it's a great start to the season no matter how this session goes. So anyway, we put our first flyer in, and we go P8 once again, this time ahead of Stroll and Carlos Sainz. So we'll see if we remain in that position as we head through the rest of the session. We will go out for another lap. We did actually manage to save a fresh set of tyres for the second run, which is great. So that should give us a good opportunity to qualify quite high up the field. We actually gained a fairly significant amount of time through the opening sector of the lap, as we are running out of time in the session, of course, and yeah, we need to make this lap count. So as we wind our way through the middle sector, stringing all this together rather nicely and very carefully getting on the power there. This is the trickiest part of the circuit, getting on the power out of that right-hander and the brakes into this double left-hander. It's very, very awkward, but we get through there nicely on this occasion, and we have gained chunks of time over our previous lap. So as we continue to round our way now through the end of the middle sector, there's not long left to go now. We are going to make a significant improvement on our previous lap. We went for the apex a little bit early there, a bit of a slide on the exit that'll cost us a bit of time, but overall this lap is still very good, with only 2 corners to go now. One really, we treat it as one corner as we head through. Again, we go for the apex a bit early, bit of understeer on the exit, but overall this lap has been pretty tidy. So DRS open towards the line, where we got to qualify for the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's going to be P4 on the grid. That is insane.
With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves once again of our top 3: Perez, Leclerc and George Russell. Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
Well, there we have it. 4th place on the grid. We've got a Red Bull, a Ferrari and a Mercedes in front of us, and yeah, I did not expect that, but yeah, we managed to get all of our best sectors in at the end there, and managed to put in a good lap. So yeah, pretty happy with that qualifying. Don't know if we'll be able to hold on to this position in the race, but yeah, you can see the significant improvement over our previous lap, where we made a bit of a mess of the first few corners, which sort of sets the tone for the rest of the lap. But yeah, that was overall pretty good. So yeah, hopefully we can aim for decent points in the race. Definitely top 10 is on offer. Hopefully top 8 I think is what we can achieve if things go our way. So that will be the target. If we can get into the top 8 by the end of the day, I think that will be a pretty good result. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the race.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula 1 World Championship. We go racing today around the 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit, with 15 corners and 2 good passing opportunities into turns 1 and 4. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left tyre into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Russell, the scientist, Max Verstappen and Ricciardo, Norris, Hamilton, Sainz and Lance Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Tsunoda, Kevin Magnussen and Tictum, Albon, Gasly, Guanyu ZHOU and Fernando Alonso, DARUVALA, Ocon, Latifi and Oscar Piastri. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as once again we get another year of Formula One underway.
We're into those tense few minutes before the first race then. Everyone's a little bit nervous about reliability. They haven't been running in the hot, turbulent wake of other cars in practice. And they've not been pushing at 100% for long durations. Let's hope no one has to deal with any nasty surprises.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Alrighty then, here we are finally ready to get started for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Strategy, we're going to go for a one-stop medium tyres onto the hards to finish off the race. I think making less pit stops is the way to go. We will make the jump for track position and hopefully just try to hold on. So yeah, that is the play for this one. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it and go to the 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go then for the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's a pretty even start for everyone. We're all on the medium tyres. We get a good second phase though. We go to the inside. We might be able to take second position here down the inside. We need to make a bit of contact there with Sergio Perez. We might be able to briefly look into the race lead here, but we will slot in to second place. But it's been a great start here for us as we get a bit of a swapper on the exit though of turn 3. And now we have to watch out for the chasing pack behind. We're late on the brakes trying to defend this position, and we will just about do so and maintain second place ahead of Charles Leclerc and George Russell in 3rd and 4th. Max Verstappen down in P5 at the moment. He's got plenty of work to do here in Bahrain if he wants to chase down his teammate Sergio Perez, who's got his title defense off to a perfect start here in Bahrain.
No need to worry about the tyre condition for now. Everything's looking good.
And that is another visual change for the season. Sergio Perez now carrying the number 1 on his car, and Max Verstappen reverting back to the 33. That'll be something to get used to. We'll go on board with Fernando Alonso to see what his race start looked like. Remember, he was starting well down the order, so we'll see how things looked for him. And quite cautious into turn 1. My goodness, full send down the inside there for one of the Alpine cars. I guess that must have been Esteban Ocon, I presume. And yeah, he gained a bunch of places there. Fernando Alonso working his way through the field and then trying to move around the outside. And bold and aggressive there for Fernando Alonso. And gets it done, I think. So nicely done there for Fernando as they're running side by side in front. I think Alonso's still running side by side as well. So yeah, plenty going on here. And down the inside goes the Alfa Romeo. So a busy first lap for Fernando Alonso, and in the end I don't think he really gained or lost too much by the end of the first lap. I think he was in around about the same position still. So yeah, it was potentially a frustrating start for him, not quite able to capitalize. But for us, as we work our way through the opening laps of the race, we begin to lose touch with Sergio Perez. Of course, that Red Bull is the fastest car, and we certainly are not. So we're going to start struggling, and we've got Charles Leclerc all over us, and the Ferrari goes for the move down the inside, and we might be able to hold him off. We do hold him off for now, but it's only a matter of time, I think, before the Ferrari gets through. He's having another look down the inside into the final corner, and here I think we're just going to let him go. He can continue on his way, and
Okay, we've lost a position. That's us down a place.
yeah, we will not make an argument out of that. Here comes George Russell as well, and he's going to also go for the move down the inside. We're late on the brakes though, super late, and we'll see if we can make this overtake around the outside of Leclerc. We can't quite do it, and we'll also lose out to George Russell, who also made a bit of contact with Charles Leclerc as he went super late on the brakes. We'll go on board with Russell, and you can see he just went so late there on the brakes on the inside line, and that contact with Leclerc was all but inevitable at that point. and it's unfortunate for Russell. I think he's done a bit of damage to that front wing because, yeah, he's just been swamped now. So, yeah, we've gotten past him, Verstappen's gotten past him, and it's only a matter of time before I think Lewis Hamilton is the next car back. Will also be looking to get through, so yeah, here we go. And Hamilton's being forced off by his teammate George Russell, forcing Lewis Hamilton off the road. And the two Mercedes cars coming together here in Bahrain. That is not going to impress the boss. Lewis Hamilton absolutely forced off by George Russell in that instance. I don't really know what Russell was doing. We'll go on board with Russell to see exactly what happened. I think there was a lock-up there for George Russell, so it wasn't intentional. But George Russell ploughing straight ahead, and he came back onto the track in front of another car as well, and damaged the front wing of the Alpine of Lance Stroll.
Just came back on the circuit like an idiot.
Wow.
It's raining damage, it's raining damage.
Yeah, that's not too good for George Russell, forcing his teammate off and then rejoining dangerously himself. Virtual safety car is out for the Alpine front wing. That is sitting on the road down at turn 10. So yeah, that's ruined the race for Lance Stroll and potentially for both the Mercedes cars. So it's yet to be seen what damage is done to them, but I'm sure we'll find out in due course. Max Verstappen eventually makes the move on us.
Okay, focus. We need to stay on form.
And yeah, that was always going to happen. We not here to fight with the Red Bulls, so we're not going to make that terribly difficult as we have a bit of a swapper on the exit there. And now we are coming under fire from Lando Norris in the McLaren, and we should be able to hold him off for the time being. The McLarens, maybe we can fight with them. They're very fast, definitely, you know, top of the midfield, but maybe we can fight with them, but we'll see. We have a bit of an off though, and through goes Lando Norris. So yeah, that fight didn't last too long.
Tyre condition still looking good.
Just checking on the car, everything is fine so far. It's quite hard to damage the car on curbs around this circuit. Didn't really come up as a problem during practice or qualifying, so that is good. We lose the place to Lewis Hamilton again. We're not here to fight the Mercedes cars, they're too fast for us. So yeah, we're not going to be too concerned about them. Go on board with Fernando Alonso as he's working his way through the field and fighting away with one of the Alfa Romeo cars, and he goes for the move all the way around the outside, and the fight goes on for a while, but eventually Alonso makes his way through and gets the move done. And he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to finish in the points, but he's getting there and starting to make that progress forward and showing the pace that we know he has. So we continue on, and you can see we're actually keeping up with Hamilton and Norris for the time being. We definitely, I don't think we have the pace to keep up with Hamilton, but because he's bottled up behind Lando Norris and they're squabbling just slightly, it's helped us keep up. But yeah, eventually they do start to pull away. The big late braking move there in defense of Carlos Sainz behind, but that's left us compromised on the exit. Bit of a slide, and now here comes Sainz with a good exit himself down the inside into turn 4, and we leave the inside wide open. We're going to try and carry the speed for later run on the exit, but he gets through. And yeah, we couldn't quite run the car all the way around the outside. It sometimes works for us, but if the car on the inside has too much grip, there's not really much we can do. We ran out a bit too wide at that time, and he got through too easily. We're on board now with Fernando Alonso, and he goes for a move down the inside. I thought he was about to go for a double pass then, as he gets down the inside and is now scrapping away with the AlphaTauri there of, I believe, Yuki Tsunoda. And Fernando Alonso gets through. Nicely done there, and he's up another position. So Fernando Alonso continuing to charge forwards in this race. That is absolutely fantastic to see. And he did get past that next car as well, but unfortunately I missed the overtake. So got clear space now does Fernando, and he is now a check of the running order and the lap times as well that he's been doing are very good. In fact, that last lap he just finished then was the fastest lap of the race, full stop. so far. So yeah, that is great pace for Fernando Alonso, and he is absolutely charging. He is on a 2-stop strategy, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Most of us who started on the medium tyres are on a 1-stop, so yeah, we'll see how it plays out in terms of strategy, but certainly on pace he has a top 10 performance, so we'll have to see how it all plays out. But yeah, we are working our way through the race steadily and holding our own well inside the top 10, and just watching on with Fernando Alonso absolutely charging and going for the double move down into the final few corners, and now duking it out with Dan Ticktum down the main straight, and with the DRS Fernando Alonso will get the move done and move himself up another 2 places there. So Fernando Alonso is on an absolute charge, and is loving life here in our team, and he is well on his way to a points finish, I think, the way he is going. So we'll have to see. The fight will be pretty close. I believe on strategy the fight will be between himself and Pierre Gasly for the last points paying position, so we'll have to see how it all plays out. But that is how things look at the moment. He's currently behind Pierre Gasly, but closing fast. We come into the pits then for our one and only pit stop.
That was a fantastic stop, faster than we were expecting.
Flawless from the team, and we head out back on circuit.
Complete. See these tyres through to the end now.
And yeah, we get going. Once again, these hard tyres caused us a few troubles in the early laps, and we really struggled to get them up to running temperature, and we lost quite a bit of time in this phase of the race, unfortunately. So yeah, you can see we're weaving here to try and generate some temperature. Not sure if that actually did any more good than harm, but anyway, yeah, that was unfortunate for those few laps, but we got going eventually. But here is Fernando Alonso coming in for his second stop, right behind Pierre Gasly, and this is effectively for the last points paying position, so it'll be interesting to see how that fight plays out. But meanwhile, Zhou Guanyu retires from the race with a mechanical failure that was going on at basically the same time, so unfortunate for him. And yeah, he is not taking any further part in this one. Meanwhile, Esteban Ocon is in the pit lane for his final stop. He is the last car who was running out of sync ahead of us. So now, in terms of our race, this is where we realistically sit in 7th position. So we'll have to see how everything else plays out. This is on board with Fernando Alonso, and he's now got DRS range to Pierre Gasly. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get this move done finally. He dropped out of DRS for a while, but now he's back. He's got significant pace, as Sergio Perez now has an issue, and the Mexican driver is going to retire from the first race of the season.
Caution, caution.
The reigning champion, car 1, is out. What a shame for Sergio Perez. That will promote Fernando Alonso into the points regardless of how the fight with Gasly plays out. So that is good news for him, but I'm sure he'll want to get the move done anyway. And here he is going for the move around the outside of Pierre Gasly, almost close to contact there, but he slots in behind, and he will not get the move done this time on Pierre Gasly. As we look back to Esteban Ocon, who's been charging. He had the fastest lap of the race, but now he's made a mistake and run wide, and now he'll be looking in his mirrors because George Russell is right behind him, and he's been slowly getting his pace back after he dropped away for a while, as Kevin Magnussen also retires from the race with a mechanical failure. So a lot of mechanical failures in the second half of the race here in Bahrain. Unreliability striking for 3 separate power unit supplies, as Ocon goes for a little look down the inside and makes a bit of a mess of that move, and is fumbling now because George Russell's going for the move now on Esteban Ocon. Here's the onboard with Ocon, and he just half looked down the inside, and he didn't commit to the move and didn't really back out either. And yeah, now George Russell has made his way past Ocon as it cost himself that spot. He has also lost the fastest lap of the race by now. Back on board with Fernando Alonso. He's looking again at Pierre Gasly. He's right under the rear wing of the AlphaTauri, but still can't make the move as the Aston Martin of Alex Albon comes into the pit lane. That is the last of the pit stops. He was running in the top 10 before that stop, not anymore, and that promotes Alonso into the top 10 officially now, as we begin to clear the lapped cars. George Russell has a bit of a tougher time doing so. There's Dan Ticktum on the left, and he's giving a bit of a fight to George Russell, as the two British drivers run side by side, and Ticktum did not make that easy for George Russell, but of course the Mercedes driver did eventually get through. But yeah, I think with George Russell running wide, I think Ticktum might have assumed he had an issue and didn't have to give up that position anymore. But anyway, here is the running order. You can see Alonso now into the top 10, which is awesome for him, and we are now up into 6th place, and now on board with Alonso as he's making a move around the outside of Pierre Gasly. He's still got the nose in on the inside this time, but again he can't quite make the move as he's sitting in behind. Once again he goes to the outside as they head up towards turn 4. Can he make the move all the way around the outside of Pierre Gasly? Is going to have to send it, and he goes all the way around the outside. Gasly gives him the space, and Alonso gets the move done up into 9th place. And finally our teammate is able to get the move done as they keep the fight going a little bit, but thankfully Alonso holds on and finds himself in 9th position, holding on to 2 points in this race, which is absolutely awesome. Teammate of ours are yet to score throughout this entire My Team career mode, so that'll be a breakthrough moment if a teammate can finally score. So that will be awesome. But anyway, we continue to push on, and throughout the later phases of this race we were basically locked on pace with Lando Norris ahead and George Russell behind. We were never really threatened for the position by Russell, despite the fact he was quite close, and we never really got any closer or further back from Lando Norris, so it was a fairly lonely time.
18.5 seconds.
With that said, we did actually set the fastest lap of the race at 1 point, so we do have a very good pace in this car when it all clicks, so we just need to keep refining it, keep putting the upgrades on, and
was 1 minute 34.1.
we'll be fighting for podiums in no time. The real part of this race where we lost time was the tyre warm up on the hard tyres, as Leclerc takes the fastest lap of the race away from us by a fairly significant margin, so I don't know if we'll be able to take that back.
The fastest lap at this point in time is a 1:33.9.
So yeah, he went I think 2/10 faster, so maybe we could, but we'll see. But yeah, we just need to be able to heat up these hard tyres better, and just get into that rhythm sooner, and we could have been potentially up with Lando Norris, but yeah, a few mistakes, and that phase of the race cost us a fair amount of time. But anyway, we actually set a purple sector on this lap and took the fastest lap again, so
our best lap so far is a 1 minute 33.7.
33.7, 2/10 faster than what Charles Leclerc just did, so we are genuinely in the fastest lap battle with the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc.
We've got enough fuel for 3 more laps.
Who is in the race lead at the moment, I should mention. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll need to go for another attempt on the final lap as well. But yeah, the car's feeling great at this stage of the race, despite being on relatively old hard tyres. They've done almost 30 laps, but yeah, the car is feeling very, very good at this phase of the race, and we're pushing on hard. But again, Charles Leclerc is able to take that fastest lap back. So unfortunately, I don't know if we'll be able to beat that one. That was a fairly good marker
Final lap of the race.
that he just set down. So we push on then to the final lap, and we begin to work our way through this one, and we'll do our best. We'll see if we can set any purple sectors on this one. A bit of a wobble on the exit of turn 3, that's not going to help, but we'll see what we can do as we run through turn 4, getting through there nicely enough. And we've got to get a purple sector 1. No, we're not, so we're not really in the fight, I don't think. Sector 1's been one of our stronger sectors, I think, all weekend, so if we're not fast there, I don't think we've got a real chance. As just to rub it in, Charles Leclerc improves the marker again as he now comes across the line to take victory here in Bahrain. He starts Season 2 as he finishes Season 1 with a race victory. Nicely done, Charles Leclerc, and takes the championship lead with it, of course. At the end of the first race, we'll come across the line though to take a very solid P6.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
And I'm very happy with that result. Don't think that race could have gone much better, to be honest. I think we pretty much maximised the points we could have scored from this one.
And here's our winner, pulling their Ferrari into Parc Fermé after a fantastic race. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
So it is Charles Leclerc who takes the first race victory of the season. Max Verstappen finishes in second position with Carlos Sainz in third.
So let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. Charles Leclerc's points today take him to the top of the championship standings. Some amazing talent out on the track today. But Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Let's give it to Esteban Ocon. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Ferrari take the lead at the top of the table. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.
Alrighty then, we'll have a quick run through the finishing order and driver standings. They are the same at the end of the first race, of course. So Charles Leclerc on 26 points maximum coming out of the first race. Race victory and fastest lap, 1 minute 33.0. Our fastest lap incidentally was a 1 minute 33.7. So yeah, Leclerc beat us by 7/10 in that department in the end. So we didn't really have a chance despite holding on to that point at multiple times. Leclerc had it in the bag in the end with that lap time that he pulled out on the final lap. But anyway, yeah, he of course takes a championship lead ahead of Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, followed by Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, myself, George Russell, Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly in 10th position. Oscar Piastri, credit to him, P11 for Haas. So great effort in his first race for the team, and might even be his personal best finish in the sport. So great effort from Oscar Piastri. Lance Stroll, P12 for Alpine. Nice run from him, and if it wasn't for that front wing damage, which to be fair wasn't his fault, that was really more due to Russell turning back across in front of him back on circuit after that run-in with Hamilton. That could have gone a very different way in this race for Lance Stroll, because he had very good pace. Albon as well, a decent run to P13 for Aston Martin, given they have the worst car in terms of R&D on the R&D chart. So yeah, they will be reasonably happy with that. In terms of the Teams Championship, Ferrari lead the way ahead of Red Bull and Mercedes. Ferrari with more than double their points haul. We sit in P5 in the standings on 10 points. McLaren also on 10 points. They take 4th place with a higher finish in this race. So yeah, the first double points finish for our team though, so it's a historic day for us. And yeah, 5th in the team standings is pretty good at the end of race 1. Hopefully we'll be able to improve on that throughout the rest of the season. Alonso is only going to get better as his focus improves over the course of the season. And yeah, look at that. We are not terribly far away from level 20 acclaim. We're halfway through level 18, so that will be coming in the near future. $744,000 coming in from our sponsors, which is great, and $2 million in the bank now. So not sure if we can afford anything in terms of facilities, but we'll get into that in a moment.
Less than the income we're pulling in.
But anyway,
I suggest we start looking for opportunities to spend that profit margin.
Yeah, first things first, we need to head to the activity timeline, and we actually have enough time to do all of these events. We bought this upgrade to the gearbox reliability testing. I don't really know why. In retrospect, I don't think we need it, but anyway. I almost forgot about these driver perk thingies, but we're going to get the power mapping one for better engine wear. We're also going to get the development feedback for more resource points. I can't quite afford the social media team one at the moment, but I'm sure we'll get to that at a later time. Looking here, unfortunately Alonso's focus has gotten worse. It's down to 24, so I don't know, we'll have to do something about that, because yeah, it is really taken a downward turn. We had a bit of an issue in terms of the sponsor stickers on the car. You may have noticed there are some missing. The one on the halo, for some reason, when we switched to the new sponsor for the season, it didn't carry over. The one on the side did. And I saw that, and I didn't bother to check the other ones, but the one on the halo and the one on the rear wing did not. So yeah, we have now fixed those. Just looking at what the other ones look like. Some of them look pretty silly on the rear wing, but anyway, there we go. That is now fixed. We go through the timeline then, and we get our facility upgrade, aero facility. We get our DRS upgrade, our plank upgrade, and now we have a marketing department event. We need to choose our new rival. We can choose between Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, or Daniel Ricciardo. We're going to go with Daniel Ricciardo. I don't think we're quite ready to take on the Mercedes drivers yet, so yeah, we're going to go with Danny Rick as our new rival.
But I think you made the right call.
Yeah, I think I made the right call too. Then again, we did beat George Russell in this race. He kind of took out his teammate like a wallaby though, so, you know, that was not an ideal start to the season for Mercedes. Get our weekly resources. Do we have enough to actually do anything though at the moment? We're going to get, you know, small batches at a time, so probably not, I would say. But the steady improvements to the car are certainly helping us. But anyway, we go back to the timeline then. We'll continue to push forwards towards the next event. More and more upgrades are coming onto the car, and these will help boost us even more heading into the next event. More weekly resources.
We'll have them with us for the next Grand Prix.
Checking R&D once again, but once again, still not enough resource points to do anything with, so that's unfortunate. But we're climbing the R&D chart as we get more and more upgrades on the car, so hopefully in a short matter of time we'll be fighting at the top of the midfield and be you know, up there with the McLarens and Mercedes cars. You know, getting both cars into Q3, both cars in the points every race, and so on. But anyway, that is all for this one. It's been a long video, so thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful. Other than that, I will see you next time, and goodbye.